for a story this morning. Hi, Max. So how is everyone this morning? Are you good? Are you ready for a story? Well, I know a year is a long, long time, but a year ago, if you happened to be here on this particular Sunday, you would have heard and seen this story. But this is such an important one that it's one that we like to tell every year. So if you remember it, that's great, and maybe you'll see something new in it this year. And if you haven't seen it before, then I hope that you really enjoy this story, because I like this one. And thank you for being on the steps, because this is also a really big story. So I need lots of room to put everything out here. And it starts in the desert, in the wilderness, in the land where Jesus lived. And this time, it starts in a place that we've seen a couple of times before, but it's a big city. A big city called Jerusalem. Jerusalem. And Jerusalem was the biggest city in this land, and a very important place where a lot of things happened. And it was also the place that had the biggest temple or church. And so it was a place where people came from all over the country to be at this church or this temple. Oh, that's okay, because I'm going to make some more doorways in there. And when this story happens, it's at a time that's called Passover. Have you heard of Passover? Have you heard that word before? Yeah. Passover, for the Jewish people, is in a way like our Christmas, in that they celebrate it every year, and it's about the time, thousands of years before, when Moses took the people out of Egypt and to this wilderness land where they would be free. And so they celebrated that every year. And so people came from all over, thousands and thousands of people would come and join the people that already lived in Jerusalem for this big celebration. Now, this country wasn't actually ruled by a king or a queen or a prime minister or a president here. It was ruled by this person named Caesar, who lived a long way away. But he was the ruler over this land. And he wanted people to do what they were told. He didn't want any trouble. And so he had this guy named Pilate, who was like the head of the army, and he was here to make sure that people did what they were told. And so this city had big gates. It had a wall all the way around it that you couldn't get over because it was so big. And there were gates to let people in to the city. And there was a gate at the west side, and there was another gate at the east side. And because there were so many more people in the city, Caesar told Pilate to bring lots of army folks to to make sure that nothing happened. And so, through this gate came Pilate and soldiers and more soldiers and more soldiers and more soldiers. And Pilate was leading all these soldiers through this gate on a beautiful white steed, which is another name for a horse. So that's how he came in to the city of Jerusalem. Well, Jesus also decided that it was time for him to go to Jerusalem and to celebrate the Passover. And Jesus came in by the east gate. But Jesus came in on a donkey instead of a great big white horse. And many people believe that Jesus is the one that should be king, not Pilate, and certainly not Caesar. A lot of people really liked what Jesus had to say and wanted him to be the king. And so, a lot of Jesus' followers, friends, family, disciples, came with him into Jerusalem. And all of a sudden, there were these two parades coming through the streets. There was this parade coming through the one gate with all of these soldiers in their colorful uniforms and with their swords. And coming through the other gate was this parade of Jesus and his followers. And people started gathering along the route as they came in. And as he got closer, the story says that people took off their cloaks and laid them down like a carpet for Jesus to walk on. And they also cut down branches from the trees, and they laid the branches down just the way we did this morning on the path, to make it a nice soft path. And so Jesus came further into the city with his followers, and Pilate came further into the city with all of his soldiers. And they're really tired for some reason today. There we go. And as Pilate got close to where Jesus was, all of a sudden he heard all these people shouting, "Hosanna! Hosanna! Hail to God's King!" And he thought that they were talking about him. But what he realized was they weren't shouting for him, they were shouting for Jesus. I wonder what Pilate thought when he saw Jesus' parade. I wonder what he thought. Nathan? He wasn't happy? Do you think he was happy? Or not happy? He was happy? Catherine? Think he might have ignored them? I wonder what Jesus thought when he saw... Sorry, Megan? Think he was jealous? Yeah, all the people cheering for somebody dressed in a plain coat, and he had these wonderful clothes and this beautiful parade and this great horse. I wonder what Jesus thought when he saw Pilate's parade. Maybe? Surprised? Yeah, I'd be surprised. Catherine? Think he might have just ignored it? I'll just keep on going. I wonder what happened next. happened? Well, that's what we find out. That's what you're going to find out actually in Children's Church today, because you're going to hear the rest of this story. And we're going to start it by singing a really great little song. I'd love you to sing it with me, called "And On This Path," because the path is kind of like a parade route today. So, and on this path, the gates of holiness are open wide. Let's sing that together.